Hello fellow RVers. I want to talk about my 2001 inverter. Now, the last RV I was that we owned didn't have an inverter built in, so we had to buy an inverter. And for some reason, we didn't hear that inverter at all. But we installed it underneath the bench of the kitchen table, so we didn't hear it at all. And this inverter, I placed it underneath the chair here because I thought, you know, it's going to be invisible, it'll be covered up and everything. But it is really loud. When the fans kick in, and they kick in right away, it's really, really loud. And when the battery gets low, it starts beeping its head off. It gets crazy. So it's just hard to watch TV. Especially like when we had the grandkids over and they were watching TV. They watched 2 movies in a row, and this thing started chirping away because the battery was getting too low. Couldn't do 2 movies. So what I'm going to do, this was a good spot I thought, but I'm going to move it. I've already disconnected the negative. I'm going to disconnect the positive. I'm going to take it all out of here. And it was really easy to install, because anytime you see any kind of like carpeting, you're pretty sure there's wood under there. And this just came right off the wall, super easy. It's like a couple little screws, and I drilled some holes into the side here. No one's going to see it anyway, even if I take this out. So I drilled some holes, ran the wiring into the batteries. I used a really good gauge wire. I did my research, found out what I needed, and then I upped it up a little bit. So I just want to make sure it's really good. So I think I went to the next gauge that I needed, but it was good. So I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to be mounting it outside in a storage bin, which is right here, right next to the batteries. So then we won't hear it. It comes with a remote control, so I'll be able to connect up a remote control. I'll bring it in here somehow and have it so that we can start the inverter from in here. Also, something that we use a lot on this is the USB port for charging things, especially while we're driving and stuff like that, if the cigarette lighters are all used up. So I'm going to have to bring in like an extension from the USB and bring it in through one of these holes, and then have an extension just laying here. So instead of putting an electrical box here, I can might bring in just like a power bar and have it sitting there on the floor, so that when we use the remote to turn on the inverter, we can use the power bar. So I just want to talk about the safety. So I disconnected, oh boy, she's been under the RV, she's totally full of whatever. I disconnected the vehicle battery negative post, and there are no batteries in here. They've all been removed for the winter. So I'm not going to get any shocks or anything like that, no explosions. Boy. Now I'm going to disconnect this thing. Okay, I got her off now. And what I did was I had these standoffs, and these went right into the wooden floor. So the reason for the standoffs is when you have an inverter, there's always going to be an air intake, and on this inverter the air intake goes on the bottom, and the air exhausts are here. So when I install this, I've got to kind of like make the same kind of provisions. Anyway, this is going to get mounted on the wall. Prefer to have it this way, but I don't think the plastic is going to allow that, because the plastic is ridged. And you can see my dog really wants to play a part in everything that I do. Anyway, so I'll take it outside now and get that done and get her mounted first, and then I'll backfeed all this wiring. Okay, so underneath here is the controller for the automatic awning. And then here, see I'm talking about these 2 ridges here? And I put stuff in here, so I don't want anything on the back wall. I'd love to have it right here. I know I'm not going into any wires or anything like that. These connection points here, the stands, I think they're going to be the biggest factor in all of this. See, I can put it this way. I would have preferred, well, I could still do it this way. Yeah, I think I might do it this way. This looks like the best option. I'll put it up good and high. Yeah, that looks good. Look, the feet, the stands and the holes are going to be perfect. Yeah, it looks good. I think I might just use some self-tapping metal screws or something just to get this in here. It might hold it good enough. If they start to loosen, then I'll take them out and I'll drill them through, and then I'll get nuts and bolts and get it in there secured well. Alright, if you've never taken one of these out, I'll tell you, it's just 2 screws. There's a screw hidden in the carpet there and up here. And then you take these 2 long screws out and no problem. And then the whole box comes away from the wall. Of course, this has never been there. It's always falling off easy. Anyway, I replaced all my lights with LED lights. You see, there's an LED light. I had to modify it to get it to fit. So I just cut it off, and lo and behold, it still worked. Okay, so there's where I drilled the holes in for the wire. I'm going to pull that wire back through the holes. And then I made holes in the floor. Well, I didn't make holes in the floor here, but there's where I ran the wire in. Oops, sorry. Oh. Okay, so there's where I ran the wire in, and you'll see I had the sheathing on it. So, and now I've got to pull it all out, back out, and I believe I re-foamed it. So, like, my floor is like all styrofoam underneath, and then I think from the other side I re-foamed it. So I'm going to give you a really good piece of advice. Alright, so in the first RV that we had, we hooked up the inverter, or I was telling you about that, and what happened was that, I'm just trying to get you guys out of the wind. What happened was that if you leave the inverter on, even though it's off, alright, these are electronics, so they've always got to have voltage connected to them, because if you're pressing the little button to turn it on, chances are it's got a microprocessor, it's got 5 volts, 12 volts, and everything else. So it needs power. And it will consume power. So we would come back to our RV after not using it for like a week, and we'd be dead. The batteries would be dead because the inverter was using the power. So we used to disconnect the inverter every single time we weren't, like, we'd put the vehicle in storage, like even for a week, right? One weekend to the next. So this time I did things a little differently. Yeah. So each time there's a shut-off switch on the control panel. It's the main disconnect here. So I've got my box off, right? So there's the control panel, and there's the battery disconnect right there, the coach disconnect. So I thought, gee, wouldn't it be great if I could just connect my inverter onto that same box that does all the disconnecting for the whole coach. So I did. Here's what I did. Took my multimeter out one day. I turned off, on and off the coach main switch I just showed you. And I went around checking these, and I discovered that this one here, that is actually the positive line that it shuts off and turns on. Right? So I connected my inverter, this cable right here, right to that box. And this little wire that's connected there, well, that's, I'm going to show you in a later video, that is our self-installed awning lights. Okay, so here, this cable goes right to that switch box. See? This is the controller. Right, so I just connect right to here. This is going to go to the positive. This wire right here, this big cable, is going to go to the positive of my inverter. Alright, and it's so short now. Right, I'm going to be able to cut this cable right down. See this cable? There's the wall right there. So I'm going to be able to lose. Wow, I'm going to be able to lose like. I'm going to be able to lose like 2 feet, I think, maybe. and that's awesome in terms of loss. Okay, so I'm going to be able to lose quite a bit of cable. I'll run it all nice and neatly along the other cables and zap strap them to them. And then I'll drill some holes through that box and get that cable installed. Which means I'm going to have to go out and buy a couple of new crimp-on ends here. Have to run home and get the heat shrink gun and put a nice job to this, just like I did here. But it's going to be way more efficient now. Wow, double bonus. Hi there. Look, hey, if you're thinking about soldering that cable into there, you might think again. I'll tell you why. There's a chance this might get hot. And if there's a chance it might get hot, it's not worth soldering. So crimp it. And if you don't have a crimper, well, I'll show you what I do. Because the crimpers I used to use in the military, we had big ones and we had small ones. But the crimpers we used were like a punch sliding in a sleeve or a chisel, depending. And so this here I crimped myself just now, right? You see the crimp on there? Okay, so what I did was I found this nice solid beam here, right? And I placed this on here. And then I took my chisel, cold chisel, and my hammer, and I hammered it until there was no play at all. Now I'm ready to pull up this red heat shrink tubing, and then I'll probably start the generator to get the heat gun going. Okay, so what I did was I turned on the generator by reconnecting the battery to the engine, turning on the engine, flipping on the interconnect switch, and then I flipped on the generator. I made sure this was touching rubber only, and then I heat shrunk it. So it looks pretty good now. Looks like it's factory bought like that. Like, looks pretty good. And right now everything's disconnected. So now I'm ready to shove these things into the holes, get them connected to the inverter. And I found an old extension cord I made when I was just a kid. That's going to work out really good, I think, to bring the power up. And that's right here. So I think that's going to work well. I can mount this on that box, hopefully. Okay, so this is what I got so far. I got the old 2 holes from the old wire. I got this controller going into one hole, and it's going to be a standoff. So this is going to go mount on the side. Okay, and this runs to the inverter. And then this is going to be, like, I'm going to use it to hide the wire, so it's going to be screwed right there. So it won't be flush, but it'll be good. Nobody will see it, nobody touches it anyway. So I've got, there's the cable for the 120 or 110 volt, depending on what country you're in. And I've got, this is the cable, which I'm gonna, loop up and tuck in and hide and everything. And I've still got zap strap everything, but this is the cable for the remote. Okay, and right out here, there it is, all installed, mounted. Okay, I've got a couple of holes in there. I got black silicone. I'm gonna, silicone all this nice and neat when I'm done. I'll go from the other side too, so the water won't splash in there. But now I've got to get the USB cable and bring it through. I'm not even sure if I want to do that now. Like, I don't know, if I can turn the inverter on, then I can use the, one of the little bricks or whatever you call it, the cubes for charging up the phones or whatever. Yeah, I might not even use the USB. I don't know. I gotta sleep on it. Well, I got most of the connections done for the inverter. I got my batteries in my trunk. I'm ready to put those in. So I'll just show you what I've done. There's my plug. And there's the USB port. So I didn't have to sleep on it. My wife decided for me. And I got wires here going to this subwoofer. But yeah, there it is. So it's pretty good, eh? It's solid. Everything's solid, secured. Okay, I'll show you the other side. There it is. USB, the remote, my plug that was under the seat there I just showed you. all ready to go. All I've left to do is a little black silicone around everything and seal them up. Even the back wires over here, I have to do those. Oops, you can't see much. Okay, so I'm gonna have to silicone those up too. That'll be a little tough. But you know, I couldn't use my covers. That sucked. These covers here, I couldn't use those over the positive and negative terminals. That's okay. Nobody's going to touch them there. This is all plastic. Plastic bins go in here. It's going to be fine. Nothing's going to be able to short it out. Okay, these are the cables that we're looking at. So I've put this stuff around it. Zap strapped everything nice and solid. I'll put the zap strap here because you don't want chafing. You don't want this stuff going wiggling like this while you're driving. And chafing causes problems. So I've got this nice covering that goes over all the wires and over here, and it goes up to all the way like that, right up to my box. So that's what I did. So I don't know why they decided to put the control panel right here. You can never read the things. But anyway, I've got the eliminator remote control there on the end, right here, ready to go. So I think it's going to work out just fine. Now I have to put the batteries in, give this thing a test run. Okay, so I got my batteries in, and for anybody who's never done this or nervous about doing it, I connect my positive first, right, and then I'll connect my negative, and then I'll do the jumper last. So these are 6-volt batteries, and I have a YouTube video on why I use 6-volt batteries as opposed to two 12 volts. It's a lot better. And what I had done before is these 3 wires, I'd connected them together with these things, right? And the same with the negative, so that in the winter, when I start the engine, then I can click the coach main switch, and then bingo, I'll be able to run the generator or whatever I need to do in the back. Just giving you a heads up on how to connect batteries. So if you can find yourself one of these wrenches, they're awesome for doing battery connections because they're rubber handle. Out of everybody I've seen who ever shorts out a battery, it's because they're tightening them up and the handle touches metal or something. So that's really nice to have. And I've just got the 2 left to do now, the interconnect, and that's it. Then I can test this thing. There it is, all done. You couldn't ask for a more professional job, I don't think. I haven't put my cover on yet. I'll do that in a minute. I've already switched on that's the main. Now everything's disconnected. The inverter's disconnected too. So I gotta switch that on. Now I'm gonna press the inverter button. Oh, I get that nice beep. And I get the green light. So I'm good to go there. Now I'll come outside. And there we are. The inverter's running. You hear that fan? Well, it's going to get much louder. I'm going to put a load on this, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But this is going to fit nice in here. Really nice. You know, the noise is out here. It's going to be great. And look at the big hole there. That's going to help with some ventilation. But here we go. Let's try putting on a load. Okay, so there it is. It's running. Got my wife's hair dryer right here. I'll just plug it in out here for now. See if I can get this thing to give me some watts here. Yep. See? Now it's going crazy. That's what I'm talking about. Now I'm going to go inside and test it. Isn't it nice, all the things they do to look good for us? Right. Plug that in. Notice I have the Canadian way with the ground lugged down. And turn the sucker on low. You hear that? That's not a warning. That's the fan. That's how loud it gets. And when you're watching a movie, that's really annoying. But it works. At 290 watts. Huh. Pretty cool. I'm gonna love it. Okay, that's it. She's all done, siliconed up. And the other side's done too. Oh boy. It's been a good job. This is going to work out so much better. So sorry I didn't do this to begin with. And there it is with all my shelves. All done. Now, only time will tell if it'll work for the long run. Worst case scenario, I gotta come out here and open this door. Not bad.